Good morning, Liberty North AP Psych. This is the first hour virtual Wednesday lesson for February 3rd. So we're going to finish our learning targets for Unit 11, which is intelligence, but it is still part of the cognition unit. Okay, so cognition again is memory, thinking, language, and intelligence. Okay, so we're going to be down. Okay, working on the intelligence ones. All right. Okay, so the only ones we have left are 15, 16, 17, and 18, and I have those on the board. I sent those out via Twitter this morning, so if you need a better copy, you can get there. I do have a thumbnail on the video. It's over both, but it kind of misses the bottom part of the graph over here, which is in the sunlight right here. Okay. But we'll get started, okay? Again, just a reminder that brain activity log went into the grade book, so did code word number 2. So those were both 100 points plus. So make sure if you are missing any of that you get that done. Also make sure you have your vocab for Unit 11 done, and then also your define and apply. People are starting to turn those in, so good job, students who are working ahead on that. And that's on Canvas, all right, that's already there. So your topic choices are already on Canvas, and they're from Unit 7 and 11. You just pick one though. It's only one, define and apply, okay? And then we're still on schedule for your quiz. This will be a fairly large quiz over the cognition unit next week, okay? So it might be Wednesday and Thursday because I don't think we have school on Friday, okay? All right, well, let's get started. Okay, so learning target 15, and I have the page numbers up here as well. So I'm gonna move it up here. Okay, all right, so I've got your learning targets are in red and black. The page numbers are here in parentheses, okay? And then I've kind of got the important stuff numbered, okay? So 15 is your names, all right? So identify the contributions of key researchers in intelligence. Again, you can put these in your names, or you can put them in AP Learning Target number 15. Don't forget that earlier this week, yesterday and Monday, we did 4 other names that were associated with your historical and contemporary theories in psychology. So make sure you add those there. Okay, so you should have a total of about 8 names. All right. Today we've got some real big ones, okay? Not that yesterday's weren't, but these are kind of the big ones. So Alfred Binet, who's on page 16, is considered the father of intelligence testing. All right, he is from France, and he was basically charged with creating a test that would group students by mental ability. So again, we talked about how in the early 1900s, really only the rich elite white males were the ones who were educated. So when countries started to make education in public for all, they kind of ran into problems because you had so many students of varying different mental abilities at varying ages. So, you know, you could again have somebody who was who was 10 years old in one class, and you put all the 10-year-olds in the same class. You could have a 10-year-old functioning at mental age 15 or mental age 5. You know, so there was just such a huge gap in educational and intelligence difference. So they knew they needed to change something. So again, the European system is more based on mental age. So again, in America, we kind of gone back to the age thing. You know, you kind of graduate by age. You know, your grade corresponds to your age. In Europe, you know, kind of based on Binet's legacy, it's based on mental age. So you know, the government approached Binet and said, you know, we need a test. We need a test that's going to give us a mental age, or help us identify what level these kids are functioning at, so we can group them by that level, not by their chronological age, but by their mental age. So he did that, and so he created that kind of the first IQ test. Now again, IQ tests have been around. We know, I think the earliest one is from ancient China. If you were going to be a servant and you're going to work in the emperor's palace complex, you had to be a certain level of intelligence. So they had an intelligence test there. But just a really great example there of mental age and chronological age, the differences between some education systems but he is widely considered the father of IQ testing. Okay. Another side note, Binet actually thought intelligence was environmental. So again, he kind of went away from the genetic side of it, and kind of believed that it was environmental, and everybody could be smart and intelligent, which is true, just based on whether they had a enriched environment or not. Louis Terman, also on page 618, is big. He was a Stanford University professor, and what he did is he kind of brought the Binet test to America, and basically revised it, changed some things at Stanford University. And then his work, combined with Binet's legacy and his work, created the Stanford Binet IQ test, okay, which is probably the second biggest IQ test that we have, most registered, most used. So you have the Wechsler, number one, and then you have the Stanford Binet. And for a long time, it was the Stanford Binet. It was kind of, the Stanford Binet was kind of the bar for intelligence testing. Okay. 3 is David Wechsler. Okay, very important. So we talked about, so he was an immigrant from Germany. He was a prodigy. Ran into difficulties at Ellis Island getting his family in here, and then he realized that we need a better intelligence test. The world needs a better intelligence test. We need an intelligence test that can not only function globally without any bias, but then also can represent culture specific important elements of intelligence. So he is kind of the author, the creator of the WAIS, which is a Wechsler Adult Intelligence Scale, the WISC, Wechsler Intelligence Scale for Children, and the WMS, which is the Wechsler Memory Scale. Okay. And again, we took kind of some practice samples of the WISC with the mazes, and we'll take some of the WAIS here so you can kind of see it. All right. So if you're going to take an intelligence test today, or if anybody's going to have to give you one for a diagnostic or a label, it's probably going to be the WAIS. Okay. Then going way back, and some of you probably already have Francis Galton on your name, under your names in your AP notebook. But if we go way back, Francis Galton is kind of the pioneering researcher on IQ. He wrote a lot of books about, heredity, genetics. He kind of leaned that way. He did also your first twin studies, I believe, okay, on intelligence. So he's kind of the one who kind of started the whole intelligence ball rolling as far as, in the history of psychology and in science, okay? All right, and then I think you need to add these names. You should already have Spearman, Gardner, Thurston, and Sternberg already in your AP notebook, because we did those yesterday and Monday, okay? All right, AP learning target number 16, okay, which is on page 621 to 622. And it says, explain how psychologists design tests, including standardization, reliability, and validity, okay? So again, the key thing which Wechsler taught us, and he's able to do, is, again, we need to devise a test that is culturally relevant, again, and emphasizes the culture standards that need to be included in intelligence, but also universally, what is a standard or part of the definition or skills needed for intelligence. So again, generally you want half your test to be the global intelligence, okay, which is going to be the questions like the mazes. Anybody from any country can get out of a maze. The 5-gallon, 3-gallon question that we ask, as long as you translate that into a different language, anybody should be able to do that. Okay. And then you want to have the other half be the culturally specific part of it. Okay. So in addition to that, every IQ test is standardized every so many, I think it might be 7 years, 5 to 7 years, in which they put it through a standardization process, which basically means that you're going to give the test to a bunch of people to practice on it, and then you're going to standardize your scores and the procedures on taking the test. You're also going to use data from previous versions. So, the WAIS is, I don't know, fifth version, maybe 6th, 7th version. I can't remember. But each year each period when it's revised, it's given to a pre-test group, which are people that basically take it and then they standardize their scores and their procedures. And then they also look at previous versions to help standardize their scores, because what they want again, if we come over here, part of the standardization process is that 100 is the mean, the average score, okay? Right in the middle. So 100 again means your mental age and your chronological age equal, okay? So we want that right in the middle, okay? And then if your mental age is higher than your chronological age, we go to the right. If it's lower, we go to the left, okay? All right. So that's standardization, okay? So that's making sure the scores and the procedures are all set. They're improved. They're done in a way that it can be followed universally, and then your scores are standardized, okay? And then you guys all should be very well versed in reliability and validity based on our research unit and also your journal critiques that you're doing over research. So reliability, again, is we want it to have consistent results. So if I take an IQ test, which the last time I took the WACE was 1998, you know, and I know my score. Hopefully, if I take it again now, my score is going to be ±3, generally ±5, you know, so it's going to be within that range or very close to the same score. Okay, so each time you take the test, you know, we want it to be reliable and that you're going to get around the same score. Okay. Because if your score changes or fluctuates dramatically, then we've got a problem, okay? And then validity, you know, does the test actually measure and predict intelligence? Does it measure and predict what it's supposed to, which is intelligence, okay? So do we have a test that measures cultural intelligence as well as universal intelligence, okay? And that's kind of where the Wechsler kind of stands out, all right? And we'll take some practice tests Thursday and Friday, and also next week that you'll see validity is a problem because, you know, they try to shorten them because the Wechsler can be pretty long, you know, 2.5, 3, 4 hours. So a lot of people don't want to take that long to take a test, an intelligence test, to get an IQ number. So, you know, they're going to shorten it down, but you're going to see that validity is harmed there because I'm only testing certain parts of intelligence, okay? All right, so then if we come over here, sorry. All right, here is learning target 17 and 18, okay? This is page 621 and then 629 to 630, okay? So what you have here is the common bell curve that is usually the standardization curve for the IQ test, okay? So you kind of got your numbers here. And then we'll kind of, well, I'll leave this up and then we'll kind of, as we go through each test, you'll just score, or each practice example, you'll just score your test. But again, then I'll kind of show you up here kind of what you would do. So, and I'll talk about our maze challenge here at the end, okay? So, and this is the Wechsler IQ test. So this is the standardization bell curve for the Wechsler, okay, the WACE. All right, so what you have is 100, mental age equals chronological age, okay? And you got 115 and 85, okay? So 15 plus or minus the 100. And 68% of people score in this range, okay? And then you have 95% of people score in plus or minus 30. So between 70 and 130, okay? And then it just gets smaller and smaller. So 2% score above 130, 2% score below 70, okay? And then you just keep getting more and more elite as we go, okay? All right? But this is kind of where the standardization process, sometimes this bell curve shifts depending on scores, okay, and national averages. One thing that we are seeing, though, is what we call the Flynn effect. Which is that generally over the last 27 years or so, intelligence tests or intelligence scores are getting higher and higher. So the bell curve is shifting to the right. So we have more people scoring above 100 than we did 27 years ago. And there are various theories why that is, okay? All right, some important IQ testing labels and diagnosis. So again, if you ever have to take the WACE, which most of you will never have to do it, or the Stanford-Binet, usually it's for a diagnostic reason or a label reason, such as, and part of that is with education. Okay, so if we score 70 or below, that's actually the diagnostic tool that we use to diagnose an intellectual disability. Okay, so again, Rain Man is the example of our savant that we've discussed. It's a very good movie. He is intellectually disabled, except for his rarefied ability with memory, because of his brain abnormality that he was born with. Okay, those of you who are tested for gifted, that's usually 125 and above. So it's kind of, it's kind of the top 5%. It's kind of what they're looking for right about here. And that is the Wechsler Intelligence Scale for children, usually what is used for that. If you're a prodigy, you are unmeasurable, okay, which means that you basically, you score perfect on an intelligence test, okay, or you're in that top 0.5%. But usually we'll show some examples of some prodigies next week in some videos. But yeah, usually they ace the intelligence test or basically do so well that we don't have a number that can represent their IQ, okay? And then don't forget 100 is where my mental age equals my chronological age, okay? Which is what you want generally. I mean, we all would be very happy if our mental age equaled our chronological age. But again, this side is where my mental age is higher than my chronological age. This side is where my mental age is lower than my chronological age, okay? For various reasons, okay? And then we talked about Amy Cuddy, Dr. Cuddy. She lost significant IQ points. So, after her accident, I think she tested somewhere around the 85, whereas before she was kind of somewhere up here in the 120s. So, that's a significant drop, but that's also how we can use the tool with neuropsych assessment and stuff like that. We can kind of see warning signs or danger areas in which people have either, all of a sudden developed an ability or decreased, okay? All right, so to kind of apply this real quickly, let's go over here. So we have, here's our scores. So again, I tweeted out that basically at the end of, so the females won A day and the males won B day, and actually it turned out to be a 6-6 tie. But if you look down at some of these amazing scores here, which I have, wow. So this is the best male scoring group, 27, 27, and 28 with 1 mistake. And then we have female groups here. So we have here, 5th period 8A and 3rd period 8A are very close. 5th period 8A has a better time, but they have more mistakes. A worse time, but less mistakes here. So those would be your kind of outstanding groups. Now, if we go over here and we kind of standardize it on the bell curve, okay, if you got under 40 under 30 specifically is what we had with 0 mistakes, that you're up here towards 145. I mean, or 155. That's almost a perfect score on the maze section of the intelligence test. So you're over here, okay? If you scored with 40, around 40 with no mistakes, you're going to be about right here. And then we had some people with about a minute. If you had some minute and you had some 3 or below mistakes, you're going to be, right about here, okay? So again, most of the scores that are actually on the board are going to be on this side of the bell curve, even if you don't feel like you did very well, because we had some people who did exceptional, okay? But when you standardize the scores and you look at them in relation to this, I think 2 minutes. I think you can have up to 2.5 minutes with 3 mistakes or 3 to 6 mistakes and still stay right around here. So that kind of puts it into perspective. So each test, each example that we do moving forward, we'll kind of standardize it on this bell curve. I think this is how you understand kind of what my score means. And that's the process of standardization in the bell curve, okay? Because you can then see kind of universally against a standardized group, what do my scores mean? How do I measure up? So on and so forth, okay? All right, okay? So that is 17 and 18 there, okay? 19 is about language, all right, which I have on Canvas. So that's actually in there, okay? And then 20 we've already talked about, which is culture, okay? So that's all of them. So that's 12 through 20. So we are done covering all the learning targets for cognition. So Congratulations, there were 20 of them, okay? All right, so make sure you go back over your learning targets. If you don't have 1 through 20 answered, then go back to the videos on YouTube, check Twitter for the notes that I generally send pictures of, and check with a classmate, okay? All right, I'll do another live stream during 5th hour at 1 o'clock, and then the rest of the day I'll be on the class Zoom. It'll be open, so if you have questions, just pop in and ask, and I'd be glad to help in any way I can. All right, have a good virtual Wednesday. Enjoy the sun and the nice weather.